Telling you I could listen to this ragtime music all day long. So here we are with part three. Hopefully our last part here with the ragtime book historical background slideshow. And here's a house. It's not obviously the exact house that the fictional family lives in, but this is very much what their house would have looked like. It's from that time period. It's a shingle style house. Upper class family, New Rochelle, an upper class sort of suburb of New York City. Still a place, nice place. Never been there, but I guess it's pretty nice. And this is the house that they, similar to what they would have looked like. So if you want to picture in your mind where the family lives, you could do a lot worse than this. They do go to Atlantic City on a family vacation to get away from some troubles they're having. And these are just beautiful old photos, a stereoscope photo of people just having fun in Atlantic City. And I love the dog down there. Get it, buddy. Get it. So Atlantic City now, it's known for casinos and other things. Not seen better days. This was the glory days of Atlantic City, when upper class people were just starting to enjoy leisure and travel. This gentleman shows up in the book, Booker T. Washington. I won't tell you the circumstances, so I don't want to give away too much, but Booker T. Washington was a great civil rights leader of the time period, entertained by Teddy Roosevelt in the White House. And he's more of a less radical, shall we call it that, less radical civil rights leader. He believed and got funding for the Tuskegee Institute. He believed that black men and women, I think, should learn a trade, work hard, and African Americans should join the American train of prosperity through training and work. Maybe not demand equality right away or equal rights, but prove themselves through work. The more radical, the more demanding equality civil rights figure from the time period was W.E.B. Du Bois. And to learn more about those guys, look it up or take American history with me some other time. But Booker T. Washington, great man. Criticized a little bit today for maybe being a little too soft, but certainly a great advocate for civil rights and did a lot to advance African Americans in the time period. This is great. So the North Pole polar expedition that father goes along on, he doesn't make it to the pole because he's not physically robust enough. I relate to that. But Perry was, supposedly the first person to the North Pole. And one of his top people with him was a black man, Matthew Henson. And so there's some debate who was actually at the pole first. Was it Perry or was it a black man? Was a black man the first person to get to the North Pole? And of course, the great funny symbolism of this picture is because of photography at the time, the entire team that made it to the North Pole, they all look black. And I just one of those great pictures in American history, with sort of a nice twist there. Here's a nice scene from that expedition, and we know father sort of, he has a very vigorous sexual experience with a indigenous person who's along for the voyage, and sort of disgusts himself with it because he's such a snobby Victorian man. But this is sort of an interesting scene, and you see Matthew Henson there, the black man who was on the excursion. There's Perry dressed in his furs. And you can get action figures, right? So there is an action figure set, and it is Perry and it is Henson, so that's nice. And they even have diverse dogs that come with it. But there's Perry and there's Henson. It was a big deal. Everybody followed it. The only comparison I think that we sort of have today is space. That Mars rover, but that doesn't even capture the imagination like space used to, and the North Pole expeditions did. And there are the action figures in action. Father did provide the flag, right? So father, in the book, father's business is the accoutrement of patriotism, flags, fireworks, bunting, etc. I just like this picture. They did sail right into the ice, and then the ship got frozen in for the winter, and they took off, and that was home base for the expedition. So pretty wacky stuff, if you ask me. Count me out. And there's a stamp for Perry, and Matthew Henson was included in that. Harry Houdini, one of the absolute greatest entertainers in American history. Films, in person, and he did a film right here in Valencia, New York. One of his last films was, one of the scenes was made here at the Falls. But just a real showman, tremendous athlete. He did go on a rampage of exposing psychics when they were, claiming they could contact his much beloved mother, who you see him kissing here. So a great guy. He would challenge, oh, here he is doing the milk can escape, lock him in there. So his real thing was to be an escape artist. If you're not familiar with Houdini, is he would get locked in places and underwater. And what's the next one? Yeah, chained up, and he could get his way out of anything. And the point made in the book is a good one. Wealthy people didn't care much for Houdini because they weren't trying to escape from anything, right? But poor people who were trying to escape poverty just loved the idea of breaking out and setting themselves free in America. Sadly, one of his great sort of ongoing stunts, he loved the public, is he would let people come up and punch him as hard as they could in his abdomen, because he had so much muscle there. But he had to prepare himself, and somebody came up and punched him there, and he had not prepared himself, and that's what ended up killing the guy. So pretty strange way for Harry Houdini to die. There he is getting dunked underwater. So good stuff. Interesting guy. And he did have a Voisin aircraft, right? There it is. There it is. And that shows up in the end too. So flight was coming around, electricity was coming in, telephones. It was a time of unbelievable change. We think we sort of tell ourselves we live in a time of unbelievable change. Nothing like this time period. Not even close. There's the aircraft again. And there's Houdini flying in the aircraft at the time. And that's the Duke, Archduke Ferdinand is there, and there's a whole scene sort of around that. So there you have it, a little intro background for historical figures and some of the fictional figures in Ragtime. And it's always nice to have some images to go along with our book. But we'll talk in class about the blending of the real and the fiction and the machine of history, parts, people, society. It's great stuff. Great book. And I hope you enjoyed that. And I will see you folks in class.